This conference will now be recorded.
It is 7 o'clock. I'm testing. Can everyone hear me? Try it one more time.
What number is that?
11.
Yeah, right.
Good evening. Can you hear me? One more time. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
I have a soft voice anyway, so this is going to be trial and error. But this time I will call to order the May 3rd, 2021 meeting of the Scotland County Board of Commissioners. And Commissioner Wood Gibson will give our invocation.
Bow your heads, please. Father God, we thank you for the many blessings that we enjoy each and every day. We thank you for the rain this evening, and thank you for the good people in this county, and may we work together for the betterment of all. be with us tonight as we thank you for our blessings. Let's also be thankful for our trials. They broaden our experiences and improve our decisions. In your name we pray, Lord. Amen.
Please rise with me as we say the pledge.
Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I would like to welcome all of y'all here. It is nice to be back in our regular meeting and to have all these friendly faces with all their masks on looking at us. Thank you for being here. We are trying out a new audio video system tonight, so we're all guinea pigs. And I have the privilege of having the softest voice on the board and trying to talk to you through this mask. But we'll all do it together. At this time, we'll move forward with our agenda, and I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Do we have anyone here to speak for the public forum?
I didn't have anyone.
No one is here for the public forum. At this time, we will look at our consent agenda, and I will accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Before we vote on that, Madam Chairman, I just wanted the health department, item 4, it's talking about additional vaccination program money and enhancing the data. Is that part of the federal money, Kip?
This is not part of that specific state dollars. This is reallocation of dollars that the state was already having.
I just, like $500,000.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor to approve the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. At this time, we will entertain our voting agenda item, and I will ask our attorney if he will review the rules for us, and then we will hear from the chair of the Planning and Zoning Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The matter before you is a conditional use request, and I think you have the information regarding it in your packet. Under our ordinance, in order for a conditional use to be approved, that this is not intended to say you should or should not approve, but there are a number of standards that must be met. Those include that the use will not be detrimental to the public safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare, will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity, will not impede the normal and orderly development of and improvement of surrounding property, that the exterior architectural appeal and functional plan will not be so at variance with the area, that adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities have been provided or will be provided, that there is adequate ingress and egress is designed to minimize traffic congestion, and that the use conforms in all other ways to our applicable regulations. Now, under the ordinance, the Board of Commissioners has the final say on a conditional use request, and among other things, if the board were to determine that it's appropriate to grant the conditional use, you have the ability and the authority to impose reasonable regulations on the use, such as hours of operation, things of that nature. But the matter comes to you from the Planning and Zoning Board, which met in April. I think Mr. Miller is here
Is there?
somewhere to make a presentation regarding the application.
So do we hear from Jimmy first?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. McMillan, if you'll come and present your report from Planning and Zoning, and welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Zoning Board did meet on Wednesday, April 21st. As part of the business that meeting, the board was presenting a request for a change in zoning for a section of land east of Spradley Lake and west of McAllister Road in the northern part of the county. And that change was for conditional use. We had a presentation from the applicant. We also had discussion from residents of the area. And you see from the map up there, there are a number of residential properties adjacent to and directly across the street from this property that the zoning request change has been requested. Once all the discussion was done, the board went into discussion, and it was noted the information that Mr. Johnson presented to you about the requirements and standards. And at the end of that discussion, it was moved that we deny the request for rezoning. That motion was seconded, we voted, and the motion was denied by unanimous vote.
Unanimous vote.
Yes.
All right, thank you. At this time, we will commence with our zoning hearing. We have 4 people that have signed up to speak. According to the guidelines of general statute, each person has to be sworn in before they speak in a public hearing. And we will hear for the, Mrs. Danielle Douglas. Okay, come forward, state your name. Mr. Robinson here will ask you to take the oath.
Left hand on the Bible, raise your right. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Use the microphone. We do allow up to 3 minutes for your remarks.
So can my son speak? I didn't know you had to.
My concerns for how
I guess
this would affect our quality of life.
Deborah Hughes.
I have lived in this area my entire life, have moved away to other areas. I lived in DC after college, I lived in Charlotte after college. I've recently moved back to this area as of August, gladly because it is a quiet area. It is a peaceful area. I moved back to be closer to my parents because of the National Missionary Baptist Church, to raise my
Deborah,
daughter.
who?
Because it is a very peaceful, family-oriented area. We enjoy just our quiet evenings together. So the idea of a open gun range that will be open 7 days a week is disturbing. It is very disturbing. Listening to rapid gunfire, no matter what kind of whatever we decide.
I must have missed the sign-in prior to the meeting as well. Okay. Am I able to speak on this as well? Sure. My name's Austin Proctor.
There's nothing that you can do.
Austin T would probably suffice for simplicity.
It is startling.
CK,
I want a space where I can raise my daughter.
Yeah, TROCK.
And she can run and be peaceful.
ENBROT.
Everyone in that area deserves to have that.
BROT. I'll speak to you. I appreciate it.
The area that they want to have it is surrounded by houses. In that area, kids, they go out, like we are country people, like you go out, you frolic, you go through the woods. There's no way that you can protect a child from a stray bullet. There's no way that they are going to be able to protect a child who just happens to be going through the woods and exploring, accident testing. You cannot protect our children from that because kids will be kids.
Is that the petition?
And kids will be kids, and they have the right to have fun and to explore because this land was meant for farming and for agriculture. I know that us, including other neighbors who have horses, like they go out and they ride. Some of our neighbors have cow. I mean, like that is what this land is for. That is startling for just not even just us, but for for that kind of farm life. So to me, I personally do not think it is a good idea. It disrupts the whole livelihood that we are all used to. I am very strongly against it. Especially someone who recently moved back home specifically for peace of mind. It gives me anxiety to think of 7 days a week, someone firing off a gun day in and day out. And not to mention, McAllister Road is a one-way in, one-way out. So you are increasing the number of cars that are coming in and out. There are children on that road. Like it's not safe. So I have so many concerns about the noise pollution and just the safety, across the board. So
Thank you.
those are my concerns.
Thank you for your remarks.
Madam Chair.
And thank you for allowing us to speak.
Madam Chair, the board members have the authority to ask questions of the officer.
Anybody have a question for Mr. Douglas?
Ms. Douglas, is that
Is that-
property you talking about, is that Jason?
It is directly across from, where they're planning to build.
No, I'm just saying that going down Palmer Road, is that to the left when you pass Nashville Church?
Yes, sir.
That dirt road?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So when you're coming down, Nashville Church Road, so it's, Palmer Road splits this way and Palmer Road comes this way from the church.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Our next speaker that has signed up is Charles Douglas. Mr. Douglas, Mr. Robertson coming to swear you in.
Left hand on Bible, raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, and nothing but God.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. My name is Charles Douglas. I'm a different Nashville Baptist Church, and I've been in the Nashville area. I've been on, Council Road for 47 years, and that is home. But sometimes I like to ride my horse. I do too, but I don't want to get dumped because somebody want to shoot. It's just a bad situation for all of us that live in that area. And we hope y'all find in your heart, not pass that bill. So, we really need to go out. I don't enjoy quiet. I can go any city in the country and get much noise I want. But when I come home, I would love to have some peace and quiet. I thank you, folks. Not to pass, I appreciate it. That's all.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Douglas?
Mr. Douglas, where do you live in relation to the, 47 acre tract?
Where I live,
Where you live in relation to the property?
well, the same place he said, across from,
Right across the road.
here from.
Thank you. Any questions?
We just say right across half a mile, quarter of a mile.
Directly across.
John, is it this house right here that you live in? Those two, there's two there, but.
Yeah, so it is this property. It is this property.
Okay.
The next name that I have before me is Sylvia McNair. She's here. Mr. Robinson will swear you in.
Left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth.
This conference will now be recorded.
I am Sylvia McNair, and I have been on this, area for 7 years almost. And I have never had any problems with nobody in the neighborhood. Everybody has been some good, kind people. The only time we had problems was when someone had come in on the road, shot up the sign that's on the outlet say, no cones allowed. And that started the people coming in our area. But other than that, all the neighbors that I have talked to and been around, all of them good, we have understanding, and we connect together. And I definitely do not want a gun running nowhere around, because it's a lot, so it will be, nice, quiet, and peaceful without that. And I have had that all my life, and the few years that I have on earth, I want it to stay that way. But I did not come to talk, my niece come to talk for me, but I was the one who got the letter in my name, and that's what all I had to say.
Thank you, Mrs. McNair. Does anyone here have a question for Mrs. McNair? Okay, the next, person that has signed up is Virginia Manning.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, what have you got?
I do. Well, I am Virginia man, and I stand before y'all, asking y'all not to keep that, shooting like on the McAllister Road. I've been on McAllister Road ever since 66, since I was 66, 70 years. That's been a long time, without no, violence. I stopped with violence, but you know, shooting range. We don't need that now, not around people. As my niece said, people shooting, you don't know what that would like trigger back to. You don't never know. But I'm just asking, niggas in y'all home, just don't put that sheet line where we stay. For 67 years, but we didn't have no kind of, nothing like that. When all these people start moving up on on the Costa Road, that's when all this started. I didn't say this, and I know I shouldn't say it. People today is all about money. As long as they get money in their pocket, they fine. They're not looking at everybody else, they're just looking at their pocket. So I'm just asking y'all, please, don't put that on that road.
Thank you, Ms. Manning. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Manning? We have some, Deborah Houston.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, what have you got?
First of all, thank you for listening to me. I have moved to McAllister Road about 11 years ago. I moved here for peace and harmony and serenity. What happened is, first of all, kudos to you gentlemen for attempting to do it the right way. We have 3 gun ranges in a 1.3 mile area. That's how long McAllister Road is. And the chance of bullets and ricochet, we're living proof. We've already had one come through a window of our single one when we first moved in. Not these gentlemen, obviously. There are 2 not registered gun ranges on McAllister. So one by Eric Norton, the other one at the end of the road owned by the Aberdeen Police Department, retired policemen. I don't have to tell you about the increase in traffic and speeding. Where this range is proposed to go directly across the street, their little son was hit and killed right at that property, Florida Drive. Safety concerns are astronomical, noise pollution. My biggest concern is aquifer as of April 6th was 27 feet. We've had a gun range that has been shooting for 2 years with no lead mitigation. The EPA has not been notified of any of the lead, which I am aware has to be done. I don't know if this shooting range plans to have any lead containment. Are they planning on testing our wells? There are 12 children that live in that vicinity, and I don't have to tell you what lead can do to a child's brain, not to mention everyone else's neurological system. I'm very concerned. We have shallow wells on McAllister Road. You'll get water with our well at 27 feet, maybe 30 feet. If they've been shooting lead for 2 years in one unauthorized shooting range, I can only imagine what 50 shots to qualify one person will do. But you don't hold a carry concealed permit class for one person. You have it for at least 5, maybe 10. Another point I'd like to make is that we have a volunteer fire department. We don't have a regular fire department in Laurinburg, but that's going to take twice as long should there be an accident. These are really serious concerns. And I'm not faulting the gentlemen because they did it the right way. That's why we're here. However, I don't think it's the right area. And I genuinely would hope that something could be done about the other 2 that shouldn't be there in the first place. One directly across the street from us, one at the end of the street across from Mr. Cox. And they don't care. They come morning, noon, and night The noise, it's, yeah, pop, 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 when it's a 45. And I heard the meeting where they said the decibel range. They were incorrect about the decibel range, maybe 90 decibels where I'm living. But if you're up close to it and shooting, it's 150 decibels for a 45. Not shotguns, they're worse. And that is deafening. Has the EPA even been notified of any of this? Those are my questions and concerns, and I certainly hope that we would take them into consideration because we all have wells. And there's 15 children that live there. And I didn't move from Rhode Island to here not to have the piece of part. I lived on a 60 by 100 lot. I now have 13 acres. That's what I signed on for. It's quiet, it's beautiful, it's peaceful. But I didn't sign on for the shooting range. I was there first, so my answer is definitely no. And I have a ton of literature here to back up about the lead in the well water, about EPA standards, shooting range regulations, and I'd be more than happy to leave behind. According to all of it, they should be denied as well as the other two. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Does any of the board members have a question for Ms. Houston? Because those are the 5 individuals that I have before me that are opposed to the request.
Madam Chair, I would like if
I'm
Ms.
sorry,
Houston
go ahead.
would, if she would leave her information with the clerk.
I have three.
The gentleman over here, please.
I'm not familiar with it. It's my first time. 67, I got a first.
Thank you.
No, that's right. I might have left him behind.
Okay, at this time, I have someone who has signed in to speak for the conditional use permit. An Austin T. Come forward, please, sir. What is your address, sir? 501 Barton Road.
Raise your hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Okay, I appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of you guys today. So I can't speak on some of the permitting concerns that the previous gentleman had. What I can say is, as it pertains to constructability, I've looked at the drawings that you guys had up a second ago. So the first and foremost is obviously safety. It's a huge concern for everybody out there. Nobody wants anybody here on the range, off the range, or with all the traffic into the range. As Steve was brought up a minute ago. But this isn't a backyard range. I've looked at the plans of these guys. I've seen some of the people that would be out there working with them. It's not a backyard. Go in your backyard and pop off your 45 a few times. This is a pretty sophisticated group of guys. And I think through the berms and the drawings that they have before you, sound mitigation would be pretty attainable with a 15-foot berm. I know the noise pollution is obviously everybody's biggest concern. It's a big quiet area. Shooting a rifle or pistol inside of a 15-foot tall berm, it really dampens the noise. There's plenty of studies that would show that. I know that I spoke with the 2 gentlemen who have proposed starting this, and they've done some decibel readings on the range in similar scenarios to try and mitigate as much noise as possible. And I think everybody would be really surprised at what they found. As far as shooting all hours of the night, that was brought up as a concern, you know, as a county board, it's my understanding you guys are more than able to place sanctions and limitations on the hours of operation for any business. And I think it would really be to the benefit to sit down and discuss what a reasonable hours for a shooting range should be and could be. So as far as noise and safety are concerned, I think they've done everything that you possibly could do to have a safe and successful range out here without making it sound like a war zone. This is an Fort Bragg type operation that I think everybody has in their mind. It's a private shooting club with like-minded individuals, open to the public for some training events is what I heard from those guys, and I think that's more crucial now than ever for private citizens to learn gun safety. There's been more gun owners in the past year than ever on record, so I think having that opportunity for citizens of Scotland County to get out there and train without having to drive so far and inconvenience and financially inconvenient to go see quality training, you could be right in their backyard. I think that would be a huge benefit to the county as a whole. And then just briefly to touch, I know I'm running out of time, on lead mitigation, there's plenty of companies that come out. I've shot at a lot of shooting ranges that there's companies that come out and they do lead abatement in East Bay. And it's a service that most EPA regulations, these gatherings would fall under. So as far as that's concerned, I think they've covered their bases from a constructability standpoint and safety standpoint. You know, there's gonna be, shows a fence around the property, so I wouldn't see any reasonable, person going beyond that fence if it was marked no trespassing, you know, gatherings. And then there's bays, and obviously the wood line as a buffer would definitely mitigate any safety concerns. Here's any questions on anything that I just said.
Sir, what is your background?
I'm a general contractor.
General contractor?
Yes, sir.
And, as to the sound mitigation, what, have you studied that?
Yes, quite a bit.
What range,
I'm sorry?
that area?
Not at this area specifically, but at other areas, it's short, I mean, almost identical to it. A 15-foot burn mitigates quite a bit of sound.
How big did you say the burn was?
I believe on the one drawing, I can't see it as well, but it looks like it's 15 feet tall.
Did everyone use your microphones? Those who are listening online are not able to hear. Those listening online are not able to hear. That's
So was I not speaking loudly enough?
No, sir. No, it's not. Speaking on the camera.
Okay.
It's probably too far away from you.
The question that I had was, what is your background, that gives you some expertise in order to be able to, in essence, testify to what you were?
Correct, general contracting, everything from putting sound damping berms in, but also things as simple as putting in a dog daycare in Virginia that we ran into sound mitigation issues with. But we've done tons of noise studies from everything from dogs to firearms, so I'm happy to speak on that.
And I missed this, so would you tell me your name again?
Austin Crockenbrook?
Crockenbrook?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you say you live on Barnes Bridge Road?
I do.
You are a resident?
Yes, sir.
And are you the contractor who will build this if it's?
Be more than happy to be a point of contact for them in this. I'm very much so for a training facility in this area as I'm a resident, so.
And have you built these before?
Not to this size, no, I have not.
Your question, anyone have a question over here?
You
Thank
mentioned the
sir.
fence. What is the fence made of?
The fence, it just shows a fence line there. I've only looked at the drawing briefly, but it would assume to me to be a reasonably, at least a 4-foot tall fence. You're not gonna accidentally cross the property boundary.
It's just gonna be a wire fence or chain link fence.
Assume so, yes, sir. I couldn't, that would be something that would have to be proposed in the drawings before.
Right.
What are the hours of this club?
I can't speak to that. I'm not a part of the club, but I think it's well within the people before me, right, for you guys to help regulate that, if I'm not mistaken. So that's not a all hours of the night kind of thing. But I can't speak to that. I don't think.
Are there any other members of
the board.
The commissioners are the ones that are able to ask the questions, or just for your information. So hopefully we can get all the information to you through the questions that we ask. Anyone else have a question here on the board? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, there's no one else that has signed up to speak, so at this time I will close the public hearing.
Madam Chairman, there's somebody.
Yeah, we'd like to speak, ma'am. I don't know where to sign up.
Your call.
Come forward and keep your remarks, brief, please. We'll allow one more speaker.
Your mic's not on here.
Just try to feel pretty cool to the church, so help you out. Members of the board, my name is Isaac Hansen. I am one of the owners of this proposed agreement. Yes, sir.
Is that speak up?
Okay. Get it, hold the mask down, Steve, or you guys? So, there are a lot of things in here, that I'd like to cover. I know I don't have a lot of time. During the conditional use board, we weren't able to get the actual, questions until we were pretty much told them. We weren't able to tell us, it had already been told them. Actually, over at the conditional use, the zoning official, area sent us out the, section 38 standards, and then here's full explain them. Starting off with Alpha, Practical Shooters Club will ensure compliance with all safety regulations or requirements necessary for the safe managing of firearms shooting complex. All shooting areas will have a high enough berms to ensure no stray projectiles can leave the area. This will also mitigate sound travel. Trained and experienced range safety officers will be on site to ensure safe handling of weapons during shooting times. Any illegal or unsafe activity noticed on the range will immediately be dealt with and or reported. All operational functions, including shooting, will be done lawfully at all times, i.e. shooting hours for noise. Any maintenance needed will be done by a licensed and insured professional contractor per county law. B, the PSC complex will be members-only shooting area. Small groups of shooters will be operating at a time, so as to not cause any extreme traffic or noise. PSC does have plans to host several large events, but will ensure all permits for any such event hosting are in place. Sound decibel testing was completed and is attached to the questionnaire. Most areas surrounding the complex have a sound rating usually associated with ambient city noise or rural area sounds, unless right next to the property. PSC is fully prepared to adhere to the noise ordinance guidance given by the sheriff to ensure an enjoyable climate. PSC wants to be a contributing member of the community, not a nuisance. C, the PSC area of operations will in no way alter or overlap with the property or business or land adjacent to it. PSC will never act in a way so as to inhibit the use of property nearby. Every effort will be made to ensure we are consistent against those nearby landowners. Appropriately styled, clean, and well-maintained buildings or storage facilities will be utilized on the property. PSC will ensure that the exterior of the property is to standard. Our facility will only serve to add character and appeal to the community. The property will be maintained to the highest of standards to include landscaping in the surrounding areas. Adequate drainage and utilities will be added and properly function under applicable county/state codes and laws before the start of the business and after the issue of the permit. If at any time a utility or maintenance issue arises, it will become an immediate priority and rectified as fast as possible. All areas of the facility will be easily accessible by staff, maintenance, for safety and security. PSC will have 2 well-maintained road access points to ensure adequate traffic flow in the event of a large gathering for a shooting event. PSC will pay for sheriff's deputy, or police officers to direct traffic if necessary. Again, our priority is to blend seamlessly in with our surrounding and be a function and non-hindering business. PSC will ensure all indoor and outdoor areas are up to par regarding emergency vehicle staging and egress needs. The Practical Shooters Club will adhere to all guidelines, regulations, and standards set forth by this body. County, state, and federal government. PSC strives to remain flexible in obtaining this permit and will evolve our operations to meet any new guidance application rules that the county may set forth.
Sir, thank you for your remarks. You've exceeded your time. We appreciate your being here tonight. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
At any given event, how many people would probably be there at one time?
Well, COVID restrictions now, so I believe on a range, I think it's no more than 70. But that's an event on the day-to-day operations.
You said that this range will give character and appeal to the community. How so is that? How is that possible? What you had in mind when you say it would give character and appeal?
One for training, a safety standard, being open to anybody that's around here as long as they come down and sit with us. We're not going to just let any person in, obviously, off the street. One, we want to bolster community. We want to provide gun safety for everybody that's around. That, I think that more than ever is important.
Ma'am, if I may, I'm like one of the owners, can I help answer that question with him? If that's okay.
I can't hear you, sir.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I wanted to, if I could help answer the question, I'm one of the owners, I don't want to take anyone's time, but I can answer some of the questions.
Okay, answer the question.
Yeah, one thing that will help with
You
it.
need to be sworn in.
Oh, sorry.
Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir. One of the things that will help, ma'am, to help facilitate this range with the community is safety with police officers. Gun owning individuals who may or may not have training can always improve their training, and having a range to help facilitate that training is what one of our objectives are. We're both active duty in the military, along with the other business partner who's on a training event right now. So we are very well versed in training people with firearms and gun safety. And our goal also is to get everybody out there who has purchased a gun in the past, well, whenever in their life, have a place to shoot safely and become more efficient with their firearm and understand general safety with the said firearm.
Well, I'm sorry, what is your name?
Zach Smelts?
Zach.
Smelts?
My question, I have two. One is the members of your shooting club, gun club, where are they from? Majority.
Majority, I would say, anywhere from Aberdeen to Fayetteville, they're gonna be generally full branch soldiers, is my best guess. There are others that are around. What we are planning on doing to make sure it is a complete safe shooting range is any person that does decide to become a member has to come sit down with myself, Zach, and another member of the military that's currently gone, and Josh, to sit down and interview with us to make sure that they are not just some person coming to shoot randomly in there. We want to make sure that they are held to a higher standard to shoot onto this range. So it's not.
And what are your proposed operation hours?
Operation hours, so from what I understand, the Scotland County shooting on Sundays is only from 1 to 5 p.m. Saturdays, Monday through Saturdays, I believe it's sundown, but obviously we won't be shooting from sun to sundown. It'll be set to whatever government is given.
You had asked a question a minute ago about the size of your events. In the section 38 that you read, you used the PSC does plan to host several larger events. Notwithstanding COVID, what would a larger event consist of?
So a larger event, I was at a larger event yesterday in South Carolina. I believe the larger event was around 200 people, but that was spread out over a 4-day period.
How large is the strap land?
The strap land is 50 acres.
How close are these shooting stalls to McAllister Road?
To McAllister Road, from McAllister Road, we are 320 feet on the southern side, 250 feet on the northern side of the road. The northern side of the road. Believe that is 200 feet from any docile that firearm needs to go from our shooting platform.
200 feet is
the fair
minimum. And you believe you are 200 feet from a domicile?
Yes, sir.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Looking at info, I don't think none of you all live in Scotland County.
Well, us two.
All the paper I see, nobody from your club live in Scotland County. None of y'all even consult with residents before you buy the property.
We have about property, sir. We have a.
Before you even buy the property, y'all hadn't consulted with nobody.
We have,
Scotland
sir.
County boys.
We got
How do you feel about it?
Two people across the street that we spoke to. I don't see them here today, but we talked to both of them. They both like the idea. So we told them what the idea was.
What's that goes through? We all right here.
any more questions for these gentlemen?
We
Thank
gotta
you
go
both
on
very
by.
much.
Those paper thing.
We gotta lie on the oath, what they did.
On the oath.
They lie on the oath.
Order, public hearing is now closed. Everyone had an opportunity to sign up when they came in. We are now closing the public hearing for the general session. So at this time, I will entertain comments, questions, discussions from our commissioners.
My comment on it would be, number one, I would be for a facility like this. I think it would be wonderful. But everybody knew that was coming. We owe to our citizens and people that live on that land the two words that our attorney used earlier, quiet enjoyment. And I know that every mitigation possible will be taken, but again, to hear that possibly any time of the day or early evening or not, I would not be willing to put that on the folks that live in that, even if it's only two houses across the street, that's enough. So that's my.
Go ahead, Mr. Alford.
In lieu of what's ringing in my ears, I recall the shooting in Columbine and South Carolina where folk were worshiping, gunned down. A number of kids been killed in school trying to learn. Just recently, last week, the week before last, a story out of Mecklenburg County, a mother holding her 8-month-old baby. The baby shot. I can't ever see myself voting for anything to cause these people to be better shooters. 70 people, one event, everybody armed, multiple rounds of ammunition, gotta have 50 to qualify, whatever this is. There's no way anybody can say to me, well, we're gonna operate it, it'll be, we have things under control with everybody armed. Nobody having a commitment to anybody, as Mr. McFadden said, in Scotland County. While I totally support people being able to use their property for whatever they want to, as long as it's lawful, but to train folk, I mean, on and on, perpetual, not just 70 this week and 70 next month, or whatever. Just training people how to become marksmen. I could never, ever support that in Scotland County.
Mr. Golson, do you have any remarks?
Well, I feel that the citizens of Scotland County have the right to live in peace and harmony in their community. That's all I
Down here, Commissioner B.J. Gibson?
I have nothing else to add.
Okay.
I believe these people have the right to make a request to build such a facility. And I think they are necessary and can be helpful for people to learn to defend their homes and their livelihood. I do think that it also is the right of people in our community to live in peace and quiet, and I think this is not the right location for this facility.
Ms. McFadden, do you have any comments? All right, we've heard from members of the board. What is your pleasure?
I offer a motion that the application be denied.
like. Second.
Where is the motion?
I offer the motion that the application be denied.
I understand. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. It is now time for further discussion if we want it. Any more comments or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The motion is carried. Thank all of you for being here, for participating in this process. It is a valuable process, and I do appreciate your time.
That's all we got.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you.
It's about all this is gold now.
Jim. That's good for all of Charlie County.
Dr. Grant, did you run anybody out?
What was that, Commissioner?
Did you run everybody out? You called everybody to run?
I don't know which one I did in my break off.
Welcome to Scotland.
Thank you, Commissioner Gibson, glad to be here.
Oh, sure you do. I do.
So Mary Grace is looking. Councilman Green, are you ready?
Yes, Chairman.
All right, please come forward and we will listen to your budget presentation, 21-22.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair McCall. Thank you, Vice Chair Goldston, County Commissioners Alford, Freddie Gibson, Wood Gibson, Heidi, and McFadden, County Manager Patterson, Clerk Robinson, and Attorney Johnson, community members, and Board Chair, Vice Chair, Dr. Carolyn Banks, good evening. Of course, my name is Sakina LeGrand, and as Chair McCall stated, I'm here tonight to present the proposed 2021-2022 budget for Spotland County Schools. You will notice there's an overview of the presentation. I'll begin with the introduction of our Board of Education. We do have some new members, introduction of tonight's presentation. I'll then provide you all with an update on our average daily membership, county appropriation history, as well as a fund balance analysis, and then we will conclude with the capital outlay recap for this past year, and then an all funds recap for our final ask. And we'll go ahead and get started now. These are our board members. I'm here tonight. I bring you greetings on behalf of the Stockton County School Board of Education, our chair, Mr. Rick Singletary, our vice chair, Dr. Carolyn Banks, who is present tonight, board member, Dr. Gary Moss, Tony Spalding, Vicki Jackson, Raymond Hyatt, Herman Tyson, and Dr. Summer Woodside. Also tonight with me is our financial administrator, Mr. Kevin Combs. He was here to have handouts and to provide support as needed. So, why are we here again? Well, as you know, our school system, we continue to face some struggles with the historical data over the past 3 years of state accountability report. That coupled by the constraints of COVID-19, we're facing many opportunities as well as challenges that are directly correlated to fiscal management and our facility needs. When we look at our opportunities that are directly related to our budget needs, right now we're in the middle of planning a 5-year strategic plan. I'll be holding a community forum tomorrow night at Scotland High School at 6 p.m. for the community to participate and give input on the strategic direction of our district. Within your packet handout, for the sake of brevity, I won't go over it, but I did provide each of you with a copy of my 100 days report. And in that report, you will see pretty much feedback that I got from you in the community, from meeting with the community members and looking at data and observing the inner workings of our own agency here in Scotland County to determine our strategic focus areas. Within that, you will see a reorganization of staff duties and assignments at central office to better align with our school needs and support of our schools. We have a theory of action that is grounded in research. We also will be implementing research-based improvement models to help us with continuous improvement. And key to that, the very reason why we're here tonight and for the community is make sure that we're increasing collaboration
to maximize our dollars and our outcomes for our students and our families. Other great opportunities with regards to our core business centers around teaching and learning and intensive tutoring, making sure we focus on our whole child with social emotional learning and equity, and looking forward to making sure that we implement the 6 weeks of our legislative summer school this summer with pride and make sure that we have our outcomes aligned. While it may be unclear on the screen in your packet, you will see the challenges. We do have several challenges that I wanted to bring to your attention tonight that are directly related to the budget request. And those center around teacher recruitment and retention, our learning delivery options. Right now, we do know some families are excited about the opportunity to learn virtually or remotely, and we do know that there is a bill in the Senate that will be discussed tomorrow that may impact our ability to provide online learning for our families who may want to look at that further, who would like to explore that in the future at a cost savings method versus an entire school, online school approach. Also looking at the safety of our facilities. The great thing about public schools, our schools are not only our schools for our students, they're our schools for our community. So we want to make sure we look at our school facilities and make sure they're safe for our greater community. And then, of course, state and federal funding restrictions. While sometimes we have additional costs of money and things from the state and federal government, those restrictions sometimes limit what we can and cannot do. As we overall look at COVID-19 effects on school districts and finances, I would just like to say we definitely had an increase in the need for learning, the way we learn, the technology, safety materials, making sure we get transportation costs, providing meals for our students and who are learning remotely. We had a decreased need for substitute teachers until we resumed in-person instruction. And we also had an increased furniture expense need this year that we did not plan for last year when we think about social distancing as we decided to go back to school, which I'm glad we was able to provide that opportunity for our families who wanted in-person instruction more than 2 days a week when we went to 4 days per week. So as we look at our average daily membership, what is our enrollment looking like over time? As you will see on this data point here that we're providing you, as of our principal monthly report for average daily membership, we're looking at 5,703 students right now here in Scotland County Schools. And then the next slide, I'm sure this slide will likely be something you all discuss today, probably tomorrow or next week. But this is the county appropriation slide, and as you all look at our history here, you'll notice that for the past 3 years, we just had previous change because there was an agreement that you all had with the Scotland County Schools Board of Education on what the county funding amount would be. And from my understanding, this year we're to go back to the traditional funding amount that was legislated. And I have to give kudos to Mr. Kevin Cone. He challenged my math skills and I challenged him, and we made sure that we did a checks and balance and we used the base amount of funding that we used to come up with our funding formula, which looks at our average low wealth expenditures, construction. That gets us to a request of $11,743,815. And when we look at our fund balance analysis over time, you'll notice that we were spending fund balance down a little here, but in last year, not as much compared to 20. As of June the 30th, we began this school year with approximately $1.78 million in our fund balance. As we start looking for 2021, we're looking at our projected revenues. Of course, looking at the county appropriations of 11.7 mil, coupled with what we would expect to get from regular sales, use and tax, and indirect direct costs from grants and fund balance. If that stays the same, our total projected local revenue will increase by an overall 12%, which will give us about $15 million there for local budget revenue. So as we look at our intake for what we're going to bring in, what we hopefully spend out next year is the exact amount. You will notice that there's an increase in payroll expenses and non-payroll expenses. And once again, going back to that teacher recruitment, teacher learning, these expenses are an increase or direct increase as a proposed local supplement increase for our teachers,
as well as non-payroll expenses when we start thinking about training, professional development, and building capacity internally to grow our teachers and to grow our leaders within our buildings. The payroll increase for teacher supplements that is included here, this will help bring Scotland County schools up to a competitive average. When you look at the 11 counties in the Sand Hills region, for the Sand Hills Regional Educational Consortium, right now we are like ranked number 8 out of 11 for our local supplement for our teachers. But with the funds, we will be able to at least get us in line with the top 3 counties, which will bring us in at around 3250, and currently we're at about an average 2242. And the top ones in our area include Lee County at 4600, Moore County at 3800, and Cumberland at 3500. So a supplement of around 3250 would have us right there near Cumberland County, but not quite in the bottom half, more so in the top half, and bringing us out of the bottom. As we look at our capital outlay budget over years, you will see that we've been able to use the funds between last year that were proposed. We're at 99.5%, and the year has yet to end. So right now we're on target to spend the monies that you all allowed for us for last year in capital outlay, and we say thank you. We're very gracious, and we thank you for your kindness. You will also notice that the proposed amount for the capital outlay budget for next year is increasing, and that's due to, as we look at our 5-year facility report we received, and we have a current need at Scotland High School auditorium. That current need, if you go over to the next page, has us with an outstanding need for facility improvement at about $450,000. Currently, our students are not allowed to go into our auditorium at our school. We have to turn down community members who want to have events in our auditorium because our auditorium is not safe. There are things falling from the ceiling, there's damages that need to be repaired, the chairs. So we have a nice facility that we can't use because it's not up to par for us to allow our student staff or the community. So that's one reason for the increase for the budget request this year for our capital that you will see here for facility needs. And as we give you a capital outlay recap, we've been great stewards of the monies. Again, thank you for the monies that were provided for last year. As you can see, this is how we've been able to use the funds you've given us last year. We're on target to spend those funds by the end of the year. And then if you go to the next slide, these are some proposed projects we'd like to propose and include in our capital outlay. Looking at, covered walkways, making sure that our families and our students are covered from the elements of their transition between buildings in the era of social distances, and encouraging students to go outside and have class and transition to open airways. We've noticed that we have a lot of vulnerable spaces that just lack covering for our students and staff in our buildings. And also to do some of the replacements you'll see at Scotland High School, that auditorium, there's gonna have to be some asbestos removal, ceiling and light repairs. All those will be a part of that. Our staff at Shaw Academy, they're definitely needing a parking lot. And all the things here are listed on our 5-year facility study. So we wanna make sure that we're bringing you things that we know we need to plan for to make sure that our schools are safe for our students, staff, families, and community members. So as we get to the next slide, I just want to do a quick recap for our ask this evening for our proposed budget. County appropriations using the legislative funding formula, which will also include that teacher retention and recruitment. Local supplement increase, that's $11,443,815. And also looking at the capital outlay, $1,310,610 for the needs at the high school auditorium. For our community members to have access to that facility, as well as for the safety of our students who now cannot enter the auditorium due to the safety issue with the ceiling. And of course, we always want to be on the lookout for more money and more opportunities, so we are on the watch. We do know that we received ESSER 2 funds. We're excited about the opportunity to also receive ESSER 3 funds. But we need to make sure that, I like to look at this like almost like we have a fixed income and a fixed budget. You get money and sometimes you might get a bonus.
or you don't go buy a mortgage off the bonus. So we want to make sure that we have consistent flow of income and that we're being fiscally responsible as we spend money, that we make sure that the money will be there sustainable over time. So the money for ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 has been allotted for us to overcome learning loss. We're still assessing our students who have been home learning remotely, who are returning to school, and making sure that we address those needs. Looking at our student mental health, social emotional learning, summer school activities, as well as technology for distance learning. I'm sure you all have been monitoring the work we've been doing here in the district to help our families with internet access. That still continues to be an issue, even in places where some of our families have internet access. The speed is not fast, or the speed may not be dependable. And also for our staff looking at their devices as they learn to teach in hybrid mode with Skillable and learn to teach students who are home remotely as well as students who may be in their class. So those are some things we want to watch. And at this time, I will conclude with any questions that you all may have for myself or Mr. Collins.
Thank you very much for that very good presentation.
Well, thank you, Chair McCall. I can't take all the pleasure. I do have a great team, and Mr. Combs, he's doing a fabulous job helping us with our finance department.
Any questions for Dr. LeGrand?
I don't have any questions, I just have a statement I'd like to make.
Okay.
First of all, I appreciate what been done educationally in Scotland County. The issue we have as a board of commissioners is that the pot of money used here is somewhere over $22 million. And we have to run the entire county, and what we face every year is having to give this 10 million, 11 million, and we're left with that amount approximately to run the entire county. We have billing, we have employees, we have insurance and all the other. And we run out of money. And all the other taxes coming in, not discretionary spending, most of it is mandated. So that's the problem we have. So when we're asking for understanding and consideration, that's where we're coming from. We're left with about $11 million to run the entire county for a year, including everything. And it's burdensome for us. It's very difficult. I would like the Board of Education just to understand the position we're in. In no way are we ever saying that, well, you don't need it, and it's more than you need. I will never say that. In many cases, it's more than we can afford. But thank you so much. We appreciate what y'all do, and we'll just work it out together.
And thank you, Commissioner Alfred. I think that's a great point. We'll work it out together. If you notice on the first few slides, I talked about collaboration. And when I was doing my 100 days listening and learning tour, I remember talking to some of the other agencies that you support. And we were beginning to discuss ways we could collaborate. For example, we're offering mental health and suicide in certain trainings. How do we make sure we invite our county partners to the table so maybe that can free up some of their training money? So we are open as a school system to look at collaborative ways to share our resources, since we do know we get the bulk of the resources, to make sure that we're able to support our county partners, because we do understand that you all have to provide more than one ABCO organization. So thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, do you know a reason, maybe it's more of a question for him, that the funding formula change has jumped 15% in a year? Number one. Number two, I'd like to see the way we calculated that. I've asked for that for 4 years in the state and schools, and I've never got it.
Well,
And I mean, I know the formula, I know how to do it. The problem is always getting the numbers.
Yes, well, Commissioner Ivey, we do have that here for you tonight, and we will have to leave for the clerk to make a copy to see the formula we need to come up with. And I would like to answer the question, and I'm not sure, Mr. Robinson, if we could go back to the slide that Commissioner Ivey is speaking of, when we talk about the 14.7% change. If you notice, the funding formula changes use what if we would have received the $10.2 million, what it would have been in 2021. If you notice, for the previous 3 years before that, there was no funding formula used, it was an agreement. But we do have that data here, and we have the entire formula, and I'll leave those numbers with, Mr. Robinson, so he can get you all a copy.
Thank you.
Now, I thought I knew math, so I got you into that formula. So thank you all for a great challenge with the formula, but yes.
And Dr. Green, I've got a couple of questions, and not maybe comments. And one is that figure just jumps out at me as being out of line with how it's been calculated previously, or recent previous several years. A little bit, I will tell you also that the negotiated amount between the county and the county commissioners and the school system has been negotiated for probably the last 6 years. Okay. And I know it's based partially on ADM. And am I also seeing that the ADM is expected to go up?
Yes.
Is that coming from the?
That's coming from a DPI authoritative source, it's the DPI projection report, and you can share that as well.
I would like to see that.
Absolutely.
Are you saying that that is based on the principal's reports on the students they're now serving?
The one you saw with the ADM trend,
Yes, ma'am.
that's our PMR month 6. But the number we use to calculate the low wealth formula, that's actually higher than that number, and that's from the state projections that we get from the state, what they're projecting our enrollment to be. And that's the authoritative source from the Department of Public Instruction.
And what was that number?
I just gave my formula. range.
5703.
No.
No,
Oh, no,
This
that's the current.
is higher than that number.
Yeah.
Yes, ADM for the current year is showing at 5,703. The ADM projected for next year is 5,540.
5,540.
The ADM for next year is 5,540.
So it drops.
Well, for the formula, you would have to look at the projected formula for
Actually,
next year and the projected formula for the current year. So what, I guess also, what was the last year at this time, DPI would have provided a projected ADM, so what was that?
The projected ADM to finish this year.
No, the projected ADM last March for the 2021 fiscal year.
We didn't use the projected ADM from last year, we used the current ADM that we got from the PMR report. And then we used the projected one for our allotment for next school year. And if we do that narrow, that may account for some of that.
Well, and we can go over.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, I've got some other questions,
Okay.
but I don't know that we should take this time to do that.
Okay.
And this can be something we can review. Under the school system, it has a statutory requirement to present their budget by May 15th. So that was part of the reason. So the presentation was here. And if there's additional questions, we can have additional conversations at the retreat, the budget retreat.
And that'll be in
May, I'm going to recommend May 21st.
May 21st, right. 3 weeks.
I mean, and I understand what Kevin's saying, but you're talking about a $500 per student increase in 1 year. That's the rough math, but
Where do you see that figure, Tim?
I just calculated. it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks to Miss Nancy Shelley, by the way. Who's no longer with us. But, so anyway, it's concerning, but we'll talk. I mean,
We will have more conversation, Dr.
Well,
LeGrand.
we look forward to having more conversation in our save today, so we can be touch.
All right.
Thank you all for your time.
I don't want to cut anybody off at all, but I know that, this is the beginning of this process, certainly not the end. The 7 of us will be together again for your board, and we will all come to a budget July 1st.
Awesome, thank you, Chairman Hall, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
virtually.
Yes.
Our next item is a report from Carlotta Rivers, going to talk to us about the child fatality prevention team. Are you with us, Ms. Rivers?
Yes, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the Scotland County Child Fatality Report for calendar year 2020. All of the cases that were reviewed in 2020, the deaths actually occurred in 2019. So our team is a multidisciplinary team that's composed of multiple community agencies, health department, DSS members, Department of Juvenile Justice, law enforcement, the school system, court system, and we have a parent of a child on our team as well. And next, I would like to review our duties. Our team meets 5 times a year, and we discuss cases of children who have passed away from ages 0 to 18 years. After reviewing these cases, they are sent to the local review coordinator from the state on a quarterly basis. During every local meeting, each member is asked to review their records if they've had any interactions with the child or the parents, and to bring this information to the meetings for a group discussion. And we're looking to see if we can identify any gaps in services or system problems that we can actually do something about. If there are recommendations made, then these are forwarded to the state coordinator, Ms. Brenda Edwards, and then from that point, it's sent to the North Carolina Child Fatality Task Force, which is the legislative portion of child fatality. So in 2020, our combined team reviewed 8 child deaths. There were 3 under age 1. Those children were 19 weeks, 24 weeks, and 36 weeks. And then the next group of children were age 4, age 6, age 14, 16, and 17. So the causes of death were as follows. A newborn premature rupture of membranes, 1 congenital malformation, 1 accidental poisoning, 1 intentional self-harm by firearm discharge, 1 due to perinatal conditions, and 1 malignant neoplasms of multiple sites, assault by firearm, and unspecified acute upper respiratory infection, viral encephalitis, and other conditions. So our recommendation, our focal for 2020 was suicide prevention. We actually started that focal in 2019, and we actually had an in-person community activity, but due to the restrictions around COVID, we could not hold a meeting in 2019, or I should say an activity. So our activities are as follows. Every year, as the chairperson, I'm required to send a copy of the annual CFPT report to the Board of Health that was conducted in April 2020. And I also co-presented with April Sneed, the DSS director, virtually to the Board of County Commissioners in May of 2020. Our suicide prevention billboard remains in place in Laurel Hill on Highway 74. And our case reviews and the annual activity summary will be sent to the state coordinator by June 30th, 2021. It's usually due by April, but just due to the activities around COVID, they extended that date by 2 months. Are there any questions?
Any questions from our board members? At this time, it is appropriate for us to appoint a team member that serve on this board. I'll entertain a motion for that. The members that serve on the child fatality board, we appoint them till it's time for us to reappoint them to the board.
Which is that list that is in the PowerPoint, correct?
Offer motion to.
We offer motion that we appoint the list of committee members.
You Have a second? All right, we do have a motion and a second to, make the appointment of team members to the Child Health Prevention Team. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Ms. Rivers, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for listening.
Yes.
But I'll read it from here. Next on our agenda is an EMS proclamation. This is an annual event, and the Emergency Medical Services Week in Scotland County will run from May 16th to May 22nd. And at this time, I will read the proclamation. Whereas emergency medical services are a vital public service, and whereas the members of emergency medical services teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas access to quality emergency care dramatically improves the survival and recovery rate of those who experience sudden illness or injury, and whereas emergency medical services have grown to fill a gap by providing important out-of-hospital care, including preventive medicine, follow-up care, and access to telemedicine. And whereas the emergency medical services team consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, emergency medical dispatchers, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, pre-hospital nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the members of emergency medical services team with a career or volunteer engage in thousands of hours of specialized training and continuing education to enhance their life-saving skills. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical services providers by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Now therefore, I, Carol McCall, Chair of the Board of Commissioners of Scotland County, do hereby proclaim May 16th to 22nd, 2021 as Emergency Medical Services Week in Scotland County, with the EMS strong theme, this is EMS, caring for our communities. I encourage the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. Proclaim this day, the 3rd day of May, 2021. All right. Are we ready to talk about insurance?
Yes. Just a continuation of the discussion last week at the budget work session, talking about the possibility, the review of the PPO buyout plan. With this, the previous 2 years, the board had instituted a PPO buyout percentage where part of the difference in between the high deductible and PPO plan was charged back to the employee who elected to keep it. That amount went from 25% to 35%. When the board did that for a 2-year program, it was decided that they would review it again at the end of that, after those 2 years. So now it's looking here, but we discussed the possibility, at that point in time, we looked at going up to around 50% in a slow progression. So with that, that's why you have the recommendation of a proposed 2022 buy-up of 45% with a 2023 buy-up of 55%. With this, if the board decides to make those changes, they would become effective July 1. So we would go ahead and start in our employee meetings, planning for those, broadcast the information so that's available. So our employee meetings, 1st of June, we'll have that information. If the board decides to do nothing, it would remain at 35%.
And we had a good discussion of this at our retreat 2 weeks ago. Are there any questions for Kevin at this time?
I
I kind of expand on what I said that day at the retreat. I guess if our end goal here is to push people over to the HVAC plan, then let's quit screwing around with it, leave it like it is and give them a 24-month end date. Then everybody gets it. Instead of doing it, because this has got to be a nightmare for the county. And we're getting into the range now where it's $120 co-share. And as that goes up, they're gonna soon approach $200. And that's my thought about it.
And that is, honestly, that is the ultimate goal, to wind up eliminating the PPO plan. We do have some employees who are also either on TRICARE or primarily on Medicare eligible, so they are not eligible for the health savings account. So at some point in time, if we do go off and just eliminate the PPO plan, and that will happen, we will bring back recommendations to the board at that point in time for those people who do not qualify for a health savings account, just due to age. So
Even if we do the 2-year, what I was just saying, and leave it at 35%, their amount's gonna go up naturally every year.
Yes.
Because the premium's going up. And I think if we announce it 2 years out, and, we're gonna leave it at 35%, but at the end of the 2 years, you gotta go to HDHP.
If we do that, would that, if somebody was faced with staying work with the county or retiring in order so they could take the PPO plan with them, would they be able to do that?
that would depend on their specific retirement options, where they work. But there are, there's a lot of factors on exactly where that goes.
So I guess what I'm saying is I'd hate to put somebody in a position of, instead of running into the 24-month deadline and being made to transfer, that they retired with less benefits because they didn't reach their full retirement number of years.
And some of that will depend on people who are, when they started employment. If they started prior to 2004, that may become more of an issue. But the later you started, the benefits already started going back. So that may be a conversation that, we need to look at exactly when they structured, and to figure out what that would be, but it's, every year that's gonna be a smaller and smaller number.
I understand that, and I also understand that we've gone up with the percentage, but that hasn't necessarily motivated people to switch.
I got some information from payroll and from HR. They have had people who have regularly switched, volunteer, or they have requested to change.
Well, if they put a pencil to it, it's really $100 a year. That's if you're using it up to the deductible. It's not that big a difference. Money out there, when you count the $1,000 health savings account and that kind of thing in it. I could just go back to, our goal is to get them off, and we need to make some kind of now and give them a couple years to get used to that, instead of just saying July 1st, it's gone. I know we're not saying that,
But eventually we will.
we gotta put a date. We got, or we'll be sitting here next year having the same conversation.
What is the goal date that we're hoping that try and have everybody off? Is there 2 years, 3 years?
That's not been established, but at some point in time, it's, when you're basically, when you're buying up the entire thing, unless you are someone who can just, they have very specific situation. The vast majority of people are not, honestly, a lot of them are just not gonna be able to afford to buy it. Because if we continued with this, you know, it's when it's a $200 buyout, which honestly, if you leave it at 35% in 5 years, it's gonna be a $200 buyout. So that's $2,400 a month, a year. So it is gonna be a situation where, honestly, I like looking at it from the financial side. It makes a better point of view to, okay, we are doing a hard switch at this date. And then we can go off and find, because we do have employees who are Medicare eligible, who are still retired, who are still working. And there may be, if we had 2 years, we could come up with something that the board may be interested in going for some level of equality for those employees. Because they're not eligible for health savings. Now, if they've contributed to it as they've gone, it's still there, they have access to it, they just cannot contribute.
That's a Medicare thing right now.
Yes. Yeah, if you're on Medicare, you are not eligible for, or if you're eligible for Medicare, you're not eligible for an HSA.
All right, do we want to postpone a decision to our retreat, or do we want to go ahead and take action tonight?
I would, if you don't do anything, it stays at 35%. I'm in favor of keeping it at 35%.
With the knowledge of what Tim has said, that in 2 years,
I think we gotta make
Well,
that
we can talk about that at the budget.
Yeah.
But, at the meeting, but, even with what I was proposing, we were gonna leave it at 35%.
that's what I'm
That's what I'm
hearing.
saying. So I don't think we need to take any action.
So if we leave it, we don't need any action.
Right, and if you do nothing, I'm going to assume for this coming fiscal year, it will remain at 35%.
Do we sort of have consensus on that?
I agree with that.
All right.
But I do want us to still talk about Tim's recommendation at our retreat, just so we don't keep dragging it out with our employees.
Right. All right, next up is Commissioner Gay. Gibson, you have a presentation for us?
Yes, ma'am. Let me make this statement before I start talking, that it was never my intention for this discussion to be my discussion. But I did see it that way on the agenda, and I did not want to have a discussion, not have a discussion after my name was put on for the discussion. So please know that I am only leading this conversation, but it is a conversation for our impact board. I provided a slideshow and I emailed it to you, or had Jason to email it to you all earlier. I'll run through it real quick, and we can of course have conversation. During our retreat, and having conversation about the possibility, or actually was a request from Partners in Ministry for us to make a donation. I proposed to those who were in attendance that we kind of do what y'all had talked about before, and Mr. Alford and Mr. Ivy certainly solidified my thoughts, and that is that we look at partnering with various other agencies in our community and repurposing IEJ. My microphone is not working, it's going in and out, but I'm talking loud enough, I think y'all can hear.
Yeah.
But that we repurpose IEJ for the purpose of a community resource center. And in so doing, if you go to the next slide, I just kind of put together what that objective would look like, that our board would assume ownership of the building and coordinate the efforts to organize community and governmental entities for their support, resources, and assets to allow us to repurpose the IEJ property to provide this support. And that is to specifically make sure that we are not taking on all of the financial responsibility, but that we are partnering with other agencies, of which I'll list some of those. And more importantly, we want to make sure that we're all working, as Mr. Alford talked about in our retreat, that particular community or neighborhood in our community, that we want to provide support to them and try to lift up the lives of those who are in those low and moderate income families. Next slide, if you will, is for us to, which will be my motion at the end of this conversation, that we do these three things, and that is request that the Board of Education continue with the process of disposal of the building, because it is next up for them to put out for bids. Secondly, that we set a planning meeting within the next 30 days with the stakeholders that are we consider to be a part of this project. And then the third is that we send formal invitations to other elected boards, asking that they select representatives to serve as a part of this conversation. Next slide, three things that I think are very important for us to move forward. One is that we create a executive leadership team that will develop a vision and a plan. I am proposing that this committee consists of 3 county commissioners, that we ask the city of Laurinburg to appoint 2 city council members, that we ask our school board to appoint 2 school board members, that we invite Representative Pierce and Senator McInnes, also Mr. Dale McInnes from RCC, and a representative of the Scotland Health Foundation. That group would work together to try and find out what we could put in our different budgets to make this project happen. And then we relay it over to the second leadership team, which would be staff from all of those different entities, Parks and Rec Director, DSS, our superintendent, our EDC manager, city manager, county manager, and they all can take the vision that we have and figure out how they can make that happen. Simultaneously, I think it's important. I remember, Ms. Golston, when Wagram got their recreation center, that there was also a group of citizens that served as a part of that conversation to make sure that that building was exactly what they wanted it to be.
Very much so.
And I think that's important. Finally, next slide is just some of the things that throughout the community I've heard conversations about. When I went to a meeting as a school board member with Tim Ivey, and our mayor was there and a few city council members, some of the things we talked about were these things that you see on the board, that we provide adult educational opportunities. In your slideshow, you see somewhat of a breakdown of that. I'm not going to go into all that, but that we, partner with RCC to provide GED opportunities for those in the community, that we work with our literacy council. We know that we have a literacy issue in our community, that we work with the cooperative extension and do community gardens and kitchens, that we provide our youth with opportunities. I've heard city council talk about wanting to provide an opportunity for our young people to have a youth council, that they have mentoring opportunities. So we can do some of those things in this building. Community spaces. I've listened at our Board of Health meeting. Health department is out of space. They need somewhere to put people. April Sneed, our DSS director, said in our retreat that she could certainly use this place to do satellite offices, perhaps, for citizens that can't get over here or have trouble, put somebody there. A basic business startup. Mr. Ivey talked about that in detail. We do kind of an incubator for people who are starting up small businesses, that we provide open gym. Mr. McDuffie was here. I know Laurinburg Institute is in need of a place for their basketball activities, and so forth and so on. It's just kind of the vision that I see, and I've heard from citizens that they'd like to see happen in that building. And so I'm going to stop on that slide. And my proposal is, I think what I said on the third slide, is that we ask our school board not to dispose of that building, and that we start setting up meetings with other entities and try to make this a reality.
Thank you for that. That was a very good presentation. It looks like you did a lot of work to present it and get it ready for us for tonight, so thank you. Any questions from any of the other witnesses?
Was that your motion?
My motion is that we request that the Board of Education not continue with the process of disposal of the building, and that we start setting up those meetings. Yes, sir.
We have a motion on the floor.
I'll say.
We have a motion and a second, so now it's time for discussion. What do I hear from my fellow commissioners?
Well, I think it's what we talked about several different times in several different venues. I know that the liaison committee had a conversation last Thursday, and we talked about this in general terms. And the conversation was somebody needs to take the lead and begin the process. And so I applaud the presentation and certainly agree with it.
I agree that this would be really a great thing for the county. You know, it's involving all the other agencies and groups. I think that it probably will work. I would like to throw in the idea of a shelter there for, you know, homeless. You know, I mean, there's so many needs in the community. So
I think one of the topics that Commissioner Gibson has included, and I think it's important, and that is that there be enough shareholders in this project, that the funding for this should come from more than just county taxes.
Well, just piggyback on that, the presentation was excellent, but the funding is kind of like the elephant in the room. Because if we don't have the funding, you go nowhere. So I do think that it would be important that we go forward to develop those partnerships, those collaborations, and that it not be county driven. Although we take the leadership, it doesn't mean that we're driving the train. We want others to join us as we drive the train and as we lead. Sort of how I see this, because what we're, the goal outlined here, it will take significant funding over a number of years.
So do we really need to look at how much it would take to get the IEJ in a condition that we need to be in to provide these kinds of services? Do we need to do some kind of, study on how the cost would be, so we'll know exactly what we're dealing with?
Well, the maintenance told us that there was nothing that building currently needed. It was up to par, the air conditioning worked, and the roof worked.
So we wouldn't have to do no renovation?
No. Well, there's one building out there that's been condemned, but you don't have to do anything with it right now. It's the old shop, or the ag, over by itself. But that would be a plan to use that. But other than that, the building itself is functional.
So it's basically the electrical expenses and what other expenses?
Mowing the grass.
So what?
Mowing the grass. Day-to-day operation.
Day-to-day expenses, heating, electrical, all that is working, will be available. So, I just like to have an idea of what kinds of money are we talking about that we need, for day-to-day operations.
Right.
And what would the city do, what considers the city take, maybe the hospital, or whatever agencies we involve. I like to see how it'll be laid out.
And Ms. Golson, one of the things I said in that PowerPoint, but I didn't go into it.
Wagram, I'm not sure, but I think Wagram has a director and an
Assistant director, I think.
I'm not sure, Kevin, and I'm sure Laura Hilda's gonna get the same thing. So from county staffing,
I imagine
if we provided this building,
building with the same thing that we're giving those other buildings,
and then we
allow other
staff, not
just
just
from our county staff, but
city, to just reassign their people
to be in that building to
provide the same services.
in essence,
There may be somebody from the health
department that may be over there Tuesdays and Thursdays, doing the same
same thing that they're doing here,
here, but doing it
in that building.
April Sneeze said the other day that she needs
Places for some of her
employees.
Would they make any kind of a monetary contribution to the program? I'm saying they're gonna be there, they're gonna move their office over there. Will they have any expense, would they incur any expense that it will be required to keep the building going?
What my hopes is that once we formulate
Let that committee
that conversation
can take place and the city can say, okay, well, we'll put this much in our budget
to support
right in
operating.
the
What I
building.
wanna hear.
That's what I'm hoping will happen, yes,
Instead of
ma'am.
hospital or whoever, I think it's good for everybody want to move their office over to the IEJ to relieve the crowd and whatever. But we got to know how much it's gonna cost from day to day. The county attorney gave it back because we felt like it was too much expense for the county to take on by themselves, right? But I think that the idea is wonderful and I like that idea, but I like to know what do we expect from others,
Yes, ma'am.
other than the county.
I know it's not gonna take much of the day, Wagram and Law Hill.
Oh, no,
It's
won't be
already-
one,
you already got
no,
the structure.
got 2 or 3
You
million
got the
dollars, no.
structure. You got everything there already. All we need to do is activity.
Yeah, but I'm saying though, I know what I'm saying is very simple, but, I wanna know what the cost is gonna be just to run the
It's
bill,
hard
that's
to
all.
do cost right now.
So what?
It's hard to calculate the cost.
I
You don't know
mean,
what you got going there yet.
yeah, but we had a school there, how much,
Well,
what I'm saying, I'm trying to get more people that we gonna involve into the action, helping to, counteract some of the costs of running the bill. I'm not saying I'm gonna get, I love the plan.
I understand you. I think we understand you totally.
Well, to help answer one of those questions was the schools, what the school was paying there when they were running it at
Right.
the school.
Yeah,
Was about $70,000 a year in the utility area.
okay.
So, that's the full thing running, heat and all, everything, got the water, sewer, everything.
And that would be if we were to, if this plan was in place right now, and you were fully utilizing that facility, I would expect with inflation, those costs would be a little bit more than the 60 or 70 million. They're not gonna go down. But I think we need to be clear on what, we want this, on what the role
Well,
of the
we
committee
talked about,
coming.
we talked about this kind of for the last year, and I think we need to get people together to talk about it and make some decisions and move forward with that.
We have a liaison committee. Already have developed a relationship with the school. Would it be appropriate for the liaison committee to take on this role?
I would say in light of the conversation that took place earlier tonight, the liaison committee has plenty of work to do in dealing just with the school.
Oh, I hear that.
So noted, Commissioner Gibson.
I think there may be members of the liaison committee who might want to serve on this, but I don't think the 3 of us should automatically take that.
Okay, all right.
I don't think that would be a joint conversation. The two
Well, they are 2 separate conversations.
Those good conversations need to stay separate.
Commissioner B.J. Gibson, are you willing to take on the leadership of a committee with 2 other volunteers?
Sure.
And do we have 2 volunteers?
Do have the motion on the floor.
We do have a motion on the floor. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Has everyone had the opportunity to speak?
Yes. I think.
Right. Well, then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
What did I hear in opposition?
No.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, like sign. The motion is carried. But I will continue. Commissioner B.J. Gibson has volunteered to lead a committee. We need 2 volunteers from this board to serve with me.
I think John also was in the record.
John, you'll serve. How about you, Natia?
Kim.
Sure.
Okay.
That's 2, how many you wanted?
That's 3.
3.
1, 3. Well, BJ will be the 3rd.
Mhm. So we have a committee of Commissioner B.J. Gibson, Tim Ivey, and Ellen Alford. Thank you, gentlemen, for taking this on and keep us in the loop as you feel appropriate. And we'll hear back as your progress is being made. Thank you.
Okay, one thing that was mentioned last week was using a company that can archive the county social media objectives. It is a nominal cost, so that I think it's under $3,000 annually. And with that, that's not a significant issue, but if we wanted to do it, one of the things that we had as part of the conversation in that planning, and would be entirely under your purview, was if we're doing this, it would also be beneficial to go off and cover the elected officials' social media pages as well. Just because you're the ones who are engaging in, public debate and discourse, and if you wind up using, or if someone comes onto your page and starts a public conversation, that becomes a public record at that point in time. Not your personal information, but anything someone else might also post. So with that, asking back to the board, if we are interested in proceeding, or more specifically, if the board is interested in having the elected officials, social media pages, basically stored. They would be accessible, they are not accessible to the public, but if there is a public records request made, we would be able to go back in and pull that data. And with that, of course, elected officials would be this body, the sheriff, and the register of deeds.
Presently, what city is on the county this week? You know?
They had a list, we can get that information for it.
I mean, it's not nothing that just came out. It just.
No, this company's been around for a while.
Okay.
Do you see a need for this help? I don't do social media.
Yeah, I don't either.
How much is this gonna be?
$3,000 a year.
I mean, most of these social media platforms maintain it for you anyway. I mean,
Yes.
you can go back however many years you want it on there. And then I know the next comment would be, well, you could delete it. Well, but this plainly says that you can delete it from their service, that the user can delete it from their service. So
Right.
what's the benefit? You know, if I wanted something gone, I could delete it in both places, and there's
Right.
nothing, they said they can't retain that. So I just don't see.
And that would be really the administrator would be able to, most likely be able to go back in and delete it.
I don't see a need for this help.
May I ask what prompted your wanting us to consider this? And I want to ask because in this room that I know, really on me, Mr. Call and Mr. Ivy utilize social media.
That's what I'm saying.
And maybe
The rest of
share.
us don't even do it.
And I wouldn't even classify us as rabid users.
Exactly.
You know.
So
at all.
Happy birthday kind of thing. you know.
Yeah.
This is just an issue that's come up nationally.
Gotcha, okay.
There's nothing specific locally here. And so if the board is not confident in moving in that direction, I'm fine with that too.
I'm not confident.
If you're not dealing with one, I don't think we are.
We don't,
Yeah.
and this is why I don't think, maybe with new board members years to come, you know, they probably get rid of us old folks, you know.
Your social media has not scared me yet, so I'm not worried about it.
I mean, I do have Facebook, but I don't use it, you know.
And I guarantee you mine never will.
Well, once we get John set up, that might be there.
Yeah.
Our emails on our county website, I assume that's public information and that's maintained by somebody. Or is that what you're talking about?
No, emails would be a different one, that is being set up with Vault, but honestly, also with emails, you can go off and if you delete them, then delete your deleted, yeah, they're gone too.
I thought those could be covered.
Yeah,
Or they should be.
I would think. they would
With
be.
somebody who knows what they're doing, yes, they can.
I've never deleted an email. I've deleted it to where it went to the deleted file,
Yeah,
but it's.
you haven't scrubbed your file.
Well, I've deleted those spams, like those I was getting
Yeah.
from, supposedly from you. I would delete that completely out, but I've never deleted an in or an out email.
When you go to your delete file, your trash file, that didn't say that those are taken off every 30 days?
Can be if you set your settings that way.
I don't know.
There's some-
I've never seen that.
Mine says that.
All right.
I'll have to look.
I'm gonna take a 5-minute break. You're gonna ask for a 5-minute break, is that all right for everybody? This chair is about to fall out of it. Chase.
What about that email question? Because we said on this trash file, it says that after 30 days. Go to sleep.
How you doing? I haven't seen you in a long time.
I am doing exceptionally well, thank you.
Okay. I had to come by the library, so
Please do.
get hold of some reading.
No, yeah.
And
if you're paid for the same equipment.
It's working out.
Welcome, Steve, Monterey. Good. I'm not going to-
You said something.
Then get a apostles.
I've been to a couple.
I don't want
Do they still have a lot
But I know there's some. One is really, and I'm not going to employ that name on it, but you know, well, that's fine if we don't, we just, that's where their funding comes from, so. That's where.
Go ahead to ISD. Jason Hagan.
All right. I know you're, but I will get with you on it, okay? That's how you
Snoring, taking a nap, process, discussing.
2 weeks. I could be in town tomorrow.
Did they give you a copy of how you calculated that point?
I had it on my computer.
Oh, we're getting over this stuff.
Can you imagine having a gun range? We used to send what those people that with an assault rifle, they start raising hell. The sheriff can't go up there, nobody's going.
They isolate.
See, that has happened. You get all those fools up there with these assault rifles,
I know.
and somebody starts fighting.
Yeah. You don't know who you're bringing in, come on, together.
These people come from everywhere to learn how to shoot these assault rifles.
But they got that kind of confidence.
See, that's what the gun range is for. It's gonna terrorize the people up there, people coming all over the world. Yeah, they come there with guns. You know, I never vote for.
I never voted for it either.
I would vote for that.
I like your speech, I like it.
People getting good and killing us.
Yeah,
Going into school. That's what you do.
Hello.
Go to the army if you want to kill people. Go to the army.
That's why I said by the Second Amendment, they were free. My attitude was, hey, look, we got to do the guns out here. You don't need them on guns.
Go to the army. Come to Scotland.
Go to the police force, sure.
Yeah, you know what you, but if you want to get good guns, go to the military.
Yeah.
Go to the military.
That people walk around now with open good guns right on there. I got a little grand for walking around here with a. What?
Yeah.
What did you say to him, John?
I said, why you the gun?
Yeah.
But he walks around with his gun. You have to, you know, you
Yeah,
can't.
I'm sure. But I hate to be around people who got guns on the side. So these people are crazy. Yeah.
We just killed one over there by my house over there in this past week.
Where?
Yeah. He was there. His ex-girlfriend how to kick the door in and her boyfriend was there.
Oh, God. Took him out, huh? Who was it?
It's in the paper. And I think it's the police chief nephew.
Really?
Yep, when the police got there,
Duke, nephew?
yeah, when the police got there. He was
Brought out the phone.
he won't know. Call that boy, 20, 30, 32 years old. So, I know
You
him.
don't keep nobody doing it. You don't know what they got. Oh, God.
As if that's a long way, I'm thinking.
We'll make it talk. Yes.
Let's come back together.
Can't be still an issue.
John,
Madam Chairman, Jason's out here. See, I just turned something on, or are we good to go?
I think we're still.
I don't think you turned anything off.
so we're still on.
Yeah.
Can we continue?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Hibby, you are on the agenda for hospitality tax discussion.
Well, I brought this up a couple of years ago about the hospitality tax, and I know we have at least one facility that doesn't pay it.
Right.
And has it forever. And I've been getting some push from some of the folks around that we collect it and pay it, that we enforce that we collect it from them. And there may be a hole in that to where we can enforce it. So I'm suggesting we either need to fill that hole correctly or just do away with it. And because it's not fair to the rest that are collecting it and paying it for one or two facilities not to do it and gets away with it scot-free.
Do we have a way to enforce or to? I don't know if I should ask our attorney or if I should ask our manager.
I think it's enforceable the same way regular taxes would be. I don't know whether that's something the board would want the kids to be involved with or really be involved with.
Well, from our previous conversations with the tax office, with Department of Revenue, with it, it is not considered a property tax, it is a use tax. So there are differences. There are remedies that are available, short of foreclosure.
Well, I don't want the property, I mean,
Oh, no.
I don't think we want that.
We don't want.
But I know in the past, we have imputed an allocation and attempted to garnish bank accounts. One time we were able to locate a bank account, and it was, after that, it was summarily closed and relocated. So, we have done that, and like I said, we can go off and easily go back in and we can impute a tax due off of it, and attempt to do an attachment, and part of that is going to be finding it in the bank.
Well, but even if we were to go in and say, look, they know it, because I know they haven't paid it. Go make a reservation there and you're charged that. But we forgive what you haven't done. But you're gonna sign an agreement and henceforth, you're gonna pay it as you collect. I mean, I'm not trying to break them.
I totally agree with that.
But the man next door and the one across the street, and one, they're paying. And it's just not equal ground for everybody. And if we can't do it, and we can't get them on equal level, we just quit doing it. I mean, we just quit collecting. I mean, what goes to hospitality or the.
And we lose many businesses on the COVID-19 pandemic, it's still going on, but we lose businesses here in the county, in the state.
Well, we gave a reprieve of that during some of that COVID-19. They didn't have to pay it during a certain time, and then.
This goes back before COVID-19.
That was only for about a 4 or 5 month period.
I thought it was due to COVID though.
It was.
Yeah, and then there was a time where they could delay paying it for after the. I just forget about what you owe. Start now, and let's start fresh, and we ain't missed what they haven't paid yet, because we ain't got it.
I was on that board, when it first, when this taxes first started. And I can tell you, it's a wonderful thing to be able to, there was some lighting that was needed down on, South Lane. State wouldn't do it, but, a few lights we need to put up there so people would know how to turn off and come in and do business in Montgomery. And so it served a wonderful purpose. Then you're able to advertise all up, 220, and you start way out, and this money is used for that. And the one that's not paying it, they're benefiting from it. Okay? They're benefiting from the doing what they were paying. And so we need to be fair. If we can collect it.
Kelvin, I think the solution to this situation that I'll agree to the board send a letter. Like Tim said, this, what about $5? This day on. This day on.
Yeah. Okay.
It's consensus of the board, not fair, you get away, everybody else has to pay, and then said, I think the benefit, because you never know, I don't know nothing about their situation. And, host, the host, it's, you gotta pay it. But I just think, I don't know, and the mental block, something went down, and they feel like, I can't catch up, I'm not in a position to catch up and all that. It's just like I say, they ain't did it in so many years. So this day on, this is the consensus of the board, this day on, we need to, and if that's, don't collect that tax. We need to start doing it.
Do you want any of this conversation to take action or just give you direction to pursue this based on the conversation?
I was gonna say from this, I'll get with, Ed and I will have a conversation with the tax office. We'll prepare communication to this effect.
And the court includes Mr. Brown in the whole process. Everybody clear on that? That we'll leave it with Ed and Kevin and Mr. Brown and the tax office. With what Pam has said, what Clarence has echoed, and the rest of us, okay, we have consensus on that. All right, thank you very much.
Laurel Hill Community Center, of course, we had a discussion on this the other night. We did have, the, water erosion control permits that have been received. Did go off and let the architect know that we did want to continue with the, go ahead and going out to bid, sending requests. I'm still waiting on we were looking at the modified, bid calendar. So, but as soon as I get that information, we'll have that in. And again, like I said, with the bids, are expected to come in over original budget. But that information will be here when sets arrive. The board does not have to take action or can't take action at that point in time.
But we should be able to get that by May, whatever.
May 21st.
Yes.
Is that the date we're doing that, by the way?
It's proposed day. All right. Betty, we are up for a board and committee appointment.
Okay, first we'll look at the ABC board, we have 3 applicants, in the name of Dolores G. Allen, Leon Butler, and, the name of Sonia Thomas. What is your wish?
Either of them current board members for ABC board,
Now, these are new requests,
All of
he
them.
was on there before.
but she's not on there now.
They was the previous chair.
And my first meeting with that was tonight. The only thing they asked was that you make it July 1st, just because of their budget years like everybody else is. But that's, I told them that was completely up to them. Because if we chose one of the, any of those 3, or either 2 of those 3, they've all had board experience before, and they're familiar with budgets, and they're worried about the budget that they're gonna get thrown on their lap the first year. And I don't have that worry, but I'm passing it along.
So what are you saying, we delay appointing these people to this board?
No, we could do it tonight, but they were saying it would affect in July 1st.
Okay.
But their concern was just because they were gonna throw a new budget on somebody that just started, but I think all those folks have been
Kind of been they done it.
in a budget before, right? So I don't think it's scary anybody.
Okay, so the board said you wants to decide which of the 3 out of the 3, which of the 2 you want. Well, the several is voted.
Do you have a recommendation?
My recommendation would be Butler and G. Hamilton. But, that's just my recommendation.
You wanna make a motion?
Well,
And what reason?
Okay,
I'll second that motion.
okay.
Can we have a motion to appoint, D. Hampton, Butler to the 2 vacant positions on the ABC board? Any comments?
I only have the comment of kind of what I said last month. I just think we send out a bad message when we have new people who are interested in serving, and we always go back with the ones who always serve. Ms. Butler, I think, is chairman of the DSS board. Ms. Hammond has served on that board. Ms. Thomas has not served, from what I saw in her application, on any of our boards. And I think it would be to our detriment not to give an opportunity. I know when this came up, we said, well, we don't have people coming. Nobody wants to do it. Now we have a person, and we're resorting back to the 2 who have already served.
But you could have been that, I didn't have to make that motion.
No problem. I'm asking.
I mean, that's fine, I just happen to know those 2 individuals, but it would be fine with me, because I like that idea of getting new people that have not had the opportunity. We need to give everybody we can the opportunity. I said that to, my driver tonight, that we need to give everybody opportunity.
Do you want to withdraw that?
I withdraw that motion. I withdraw, how would you go?
Should we draw a motion?
So I would.
Whoa!
Move it and the person second, third, and
Right. We have to have your motion to withdraw the motion, and Mr. Alford has to agree to withdraw the motion.
Okay, I move to withdraw my, motion of, D. Hamilton and Butler for, persons to serve on the ABC board.
I'm withdrawing mine.
We have a motion. You're not withdrawing yours?
No,
Okay.
because I've already made it, I don't.
All right, we have a motion and a second. If we have completed our discussion, any more comments from anybody down there? Over here? Okay, the motion is for Ms. Hammond and Mr. Butler to be appointed to the ABC board. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
All right.
How many oppositions did we have? 4.
Raise your hand if you're opposed to that.
We have 4 opposed. Motion has failed.
Okay, then, so we go again then.
I offer a motion for D. Hammond, am I good? For D. Hammond and Sonia Thomas to be appointed to the ABC board.
I second.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second for D. Hammond and Sonia Thomas to be appointed. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign?
Aye.
Okay, we have that motion passed, so we have two new members to the ABC board, Ms. Hammond and Mr. Butler.
And that is effective.
I mean, and Ms. Thomas, I'm sorry.
June first.
Yes, June, right,
And, D. Hammond.
and Dee Hammond, right. Ms.
Now-
Thomas and Ms. Hammond.
Now we'll choose the chairman of the ABC board. Do I hear a recommendation?
Madam Chair, I have talked with Larry McGill, and he has expressed the desire to be the chairman of the ABC board, and I would like to place his name in nomination.
I make a motion to close the session.
Second.
We have a motion for Mr. McGill to be appointed chairman. We have a second. Any comments or discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next and last appointment is to the, tourism board, right? And we have, Bishop McDougal and we have Tony Scarlett. And I move that we accept both of them as, on this committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Who seconded?
Any discussion on this?
Is this one that was reopened to put out to the public to let people, because I know they both served.
I don't know, Jason, can you answer that question?
That's something that I don't know exactly how to, because if the reappointments, like, what's the guy's name? Corey sends me the people that need to be reappointed, and I bring them for y'all. If you don't want to have them reappointed, then I can go put it back on the website and ask for.
So these are old members that want to be.
These are,
reappointed.
that's what
But we haven't asked for any new.
No.
That was what I was thinking.
So no person has, asked to be on this committee.
But Ms. Lawson, that was kind of the issue that I raised before. I think we've got to set up something with our boards and committees that says at least a month or 2 months prior to that person's term ending, it needs to be made known to us so that gives us an opportunity to announce that seat is vacant. You get what I'm saying? Because when your appointment is up, that your seat is actually vacant. Vacant.
Yeah, it is.
You know what I mean? But the way it's kind of working now, they just kind of keep rolling over.
But if nobody else, asked to be on these boards, and then it's keep going on and on.
Right.
And so our job is to do more advertising for this open.
But as you just said, Ms. Goldston, you didn't even know that these seats were gonna be open. You know what I'm saying? So when we don't know, we can't advertise. So we gotta set up a process for that purpose. It's what Jason's, I think, is saying. Right now, it's just
Right.
rolls over.
I mean, if the way I've done it before, and the way that y'all have not told me to do it any differently, is if someone gives me a name for renomination, I bring it to Ms. Goldston or whoever the vice chair is. And then if you all choose not to reappoint them, then I would send it out to the public at large. Like, for example, we had a vacancy on the board of E&R. That was a vacancy. Someone resigned, so that was a vacancy. That obviously goes out to the public to be getting more people in. But I mean, if y'all want to do something to where all reappointments are open, then because I actually had to remind Corey that these folks were coming up.
I think if we had a month notice on reappointments that were coming up, if there was some way that you could develop a system of when,
And then would that make it?
Madam Chairman, I would think we need more than a month's notice.
okay, well, let's say maybe a 60 to 90 day notice of a vacancy. It was 60 day notice of a vacancy coming up. If you've got some sort of grid or Excel spreadsheet, when you know that these vacancies, I know that's a lot of work. We have a lot of boards, we got a lot of different people serving. But it would alert us as board members that these vacancies are occurring. And then, like, I know when I first came on the board, after I did boards and appointment, I somehow had a list of what was going to be vacant the next month or two, and I would announce that in the open meeting, and it would either get printed or would be publicized. So we might try to work out a system for that.
Well, we try to do that, then we'll try to give an update on what openings are in various committees and the board.
because a lot of the appointments are July 1, and this is the time of year when we get a lot of reappointments. The terms are coming up, like I know Mr. Spalding, he has just finished his first term, and I think for Mr. McDougal, he is finishing his second term, and there is a limit of 3 terms on that board, if my memory is correct.
Okay, I'm not sure because like I said, I depend on those folks like Corey and people like that to tell me, you know, what are the rules for the bylaws? So.
Right, so what, Debbie has made a motion that we appoint these, I believe.
And second, there was a second.
We have a second. So what more discussion do we have?
We have discussion, so now.
Madam Chair, I'm okay with us moving forward tonight. I think in the future, we just need to operate like we're saying.
I understand, I do understand. So we do have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, like sign.
And I just want to say one thing that was made to this conversation. And I'm sure you have this in mind, so I don't want to say keep it in mind, but when people are serving on board, they have to bring certain expertise to that board because these boards are doing what we otherwise would be doing. And we just can't put people on there because, new blood. Okay? When you're talking about the zoning board, you're talking about the health, the social service board. We need people on these boards, definitely. We want anybody that wants to serve. You have to have certain expertise to serve on boards to be able to consider some of the kind of leadership. Because these people, for example, social service board, you hire the director that's going to serve this community. So, yes, I agree with we need to try to include everyone that wants to serve, but these boards, you're just not there to you know.
I can understand the paying boards, but these volunteer boards.
Pardon?
I can understand the paying boards, but these mostly boards, volunteer boards, you gotta get what you can get there.
Yeah, well, I know they're not paying, I'm just saying, when you are hiring a director for social services, the board is the one to make that decision. When you deal with planning and zoning, okay? You're dealing with somebody who would have a couple of 100 acres of land, been in their family for 100 years. So people making the decision to that affect what that person wishes to do have to have some sort of understanding. Have to have an understanding because you're representing us. I just want to throw that out.
I think that's very sensible.
It's all about balance, it's about recognizing the expertise that's needed for certain boards. And all boards aren't equal.
All
And-
boards are equal, right?
I mean, that's just the nature of what we're dealing with, but John, I think your point's well taken, and I appreciate your thought.
And the only comment I'll add, Mr. Alvin, I think you're exactly right, but I just want us to remember that there are new blood that does have those expertise.
That's true. So there are always
These new people who we gifts and talents that we've not tapped into.
But we're gonna have to get busy because I have had called and I speak to John these boards and we are the ones gonna have to get busy trying to get them interested in doing it. Because when you call and say you wanna be on this board or that board, you know, it's hard to get people, you know, a lot of people interested in doing some of these things. So we will have to be proactive in asking, encouraging them to join the board, so they're not automatically just sign up to join the board. That's the way I feel. I mean, I've experienced it.
I'll bring y'all back to the ABC board for just a minute. Because since Mr. Davis resigned, that's a feeling of an unexpired term. And I look back at the statute today, and if someone resigns, it has to be you have to fill it. So I need to know, basically, need to know who you all want in the unexpired term and who gets the full 3-year term. Because it said if you add members, they automatically get three-year terms. But if you're replacing a vacancy, they have to serve for until the expiration of that person's term.
So I think what you're saying, Jason, is that either Ms. Hammond or Ms. Thomas will take Bob's unexpired term.
Right.
And the other person will have a full 3-year term.
They'll have a full 3-year term, that's their term, because technically whoever you put in Mr. Davis's spot is serving out his term.
So what one of us here sitting needs to nominate either Ms. Hammond or Ms. Thomas to take the unexpired term of Mr. Davis.
Right.
When does his term expire?
He was reappointed in, November of last year, so his term would expire in November of 23.
I move that D. Hammond be appointed to fill the unexpired term.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you for that, Jason.
Uh-huh. Well, it's just something that we've had to clean up later, so.
We had to do that, okay. Are you doing our update or?
You know, I know was on the phone, was online,
He went to bed.
well, he's still there.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think the graph is not too clear, but, I have one here. So the first graph, just update on the COVID-19, and you see that the total number of cases that we have, and we still have a lot of, I can say, cases, which is almost like 3,767, and we also have a number of people that have recovered from the virus, and also we have, what I want to point out is new cases, because that is important to look at. 49 new cases per week. That is something that we are working to see if we can try to prevent that, because that is still putting us into a level that I think we have tried hard. So we want to continue to maintain working hard to prevent that, because that is still a little bit too hard for the country. So the plan is to see if we can reduce that number of infection. That is important to look at. And also the number of deaths is there looking at 5. And I think we can move on to the new slide. Okay, this one is very important to look at. As of today, not today actually, we're looking last week. So the percent positivity rate is 8.1%. And the way you calculate that is to look at the number of positive cases and then divide that by the number of tests, and that gives you the percent positivity rate. And what is seeing that translate into the risks that we have in the country, which is substantial risk. And what does that mean for us is, the way you interpret that is there is still a level of community transmission. And if we do have community transmission, then that is a problem, because, and we still have to practice public health measures, like, of course, we still do have to practice social distancing. I know that the Executive Order 209 kind of easing restrictions, but I think I'm a little bit concerned about easing restrictions if I'm saying we still have some risk in the country. And looking at the vaccination rate, we are working hard to increase that. But I do think that if we were to maintain the level of transmission at low, if you look at the left, blue, you see that low risk. If we were to move that, then I think there are a couple of public health measures that we still need to take, which is goes in Executive Order 209.
And that is the important. And again, one thing I would like to point out, because by June, there's going to be more easing of restrictions. And I'm a little bit concerned because the vaccination rate, we are working hard to improve that. But when the restrictions are being eased and looking at the vaccination rate and then looking at the transmission rate, I don't think that we can all work together and kind of try to take some preventative measure because where we are right now, we are not there yet. We still have some work to do. We have done. I understand that people want to get out. People want to go about doing their normal thing, but looking at this data here, we still have the risk of immediate transmissions and the chance that we can still get a virus, we can still transmit a virus, is still there, it's still in the community. So I do think that we can encourage people to take the vaccine. Our best bet right now to get out during the summertime and to enjoy is to get the vaccine. And encourage people to get a vaccine and be able to prevent this virus, because I think the virus is going to be with us for some time. That's my guess. And the best way to do actually right now, I think, is to get a vaccine. If I can encourage anybody, I think the best bet is to get a vaccine, because this is not going to be, I don't think it's going to be, the virus is going to go away right now. So the best bet is, I think, to get a vaccine. I don't know, Kevin, do you have another slide? Okay, now this slide here, and this one is good, but sometimes it can be misleading because of the number of population we have in the country. So when you look at this slide here, it's just telling you about the population within this slide. So that's why I want to make this clear here. So when you look at the number of people who are 65 years and older, have 61.8% of the vaccine. That is important to know because we want seniors to be able to get a vaccine. We also, but now what we are seeing across the country is younger people are now getting the virus, transmitting the virus. So, and now we see in the graph here, you see the population of 18 years of age who have gotten the vaccine instead of 40%. And that actually is just saying about the population in this graph that have been vaccinated. So out of a total of 8,664, out of that, you have the number of 4,023 people who are 65 years and older, and 61% of that have gotten the vaccine. And then compare this to the population in Scarlet County. So this is a very small population here in terms of public health data. So this is a very small population. So when you compare this to the general population, you'll be thinking that, well, this is just a drop of water in the bucket. So this is why we're encouraging people to still get the vaccine. Because if you look at where we are in terms of transmitting the virus, and the reason I'm not trying to stress this too much is because I'm still a little bit concerned that we are going too fast with easing the restrictions. But I do know that the virus is still circulating, and the new variant. My main concern is the new variant. And as long as we don't have idea on a new variant in the country, then that's the problem. So I'm going to encourage people to take the vaccine, and we are doubling our effort. I requested for 2 community health workers to be in the country, and we did use a geographic information system to pinpoint where vaccine is highly needed. So we are applying our effort to the vaccine. Because my main concern is if we do ease restrictions and looking at this data, then we have to apply much effort to get a vaccine. So I would encourage people that our best bet is if you were to get past COVID, is actually to get a vaccine. If no slide, I think that's it, unless if somebody has a question. Oh, okay. So what does all this data mean to us for us in the country? This is a metric that is still used. If you look at these metrics, it's just color coded. This different color telling you the level of the transmission here. Now, our Starland County here, transmission rate is 48%. So it from 8 to 10%, it's just telling you what is the impact it has on the healthcare system. So ours is moderate impact, and that is you have 100 to 200 cases per 100,000 within the past 2 weeks. New cases in 14 days, just 2 weeks. And put you in orange, that is substantial, and that's where we are right now. So we are close to critical, which is red. And my goal is for us to move from this critical to this low, to this green. And in order to do that, so we need to get at least 2.9% of the transmission rate in order to be able to get to the green level. And being able to do that, and I still going back to the same measures, the public health measures is still critical. We still need to wash our hands. We still need to wear masks, physical distancing. We still do that. I know the Executive Order 209 still point out that masks are no longer required when you are outdoor. But again, if you are outdoor and you are in a crowded area, again, I think I would encourage people to just take precautions because the virus is still spreading in the community. And in June, I think what I learned in the executive order is there's going to be easing of masks mandate. But then I think I will have to leave that up to the county manager, Kevin, to decide what is going to be on that. But again, I would encourage people to just take public health measures, to take precautions, because as long as we are not to the transmission rate of less than 2.5%, I'm still concerned. And I'm not comfortable of telling Kevin that it is okay to relax entirely in the country. That's because we are not there yet. So I will still say, unless I see that the transmission rate of the virus is less than 2.9%, that means that the virus in the community, circulating in the community, has a low impact. And one of the things also I look at is the ICU capacity if there was a significant outbreak. And I'll be communicating with the health system to make sure that we are okay. That if it's significant outbreak, what can we do? And I think on that, probably we are okay. But those are things that we should be looking for. I think everything there just okay. Now, this is important. This is just telling you how easily the virus can spread. I understand that people want to go to public gathering, people want to go to music concert, people want to go to weddings, people want to go to live concert, but this draft is just telling you how the virus, and this is for CDC, can spread very easily from one place to another. Now, if you see wedding reception, how it is spread from one place all the way with the community, long-term care facility, correctional facility, and the outcome of that, from the 7 cases, 1 death, 38 cases, 6 deaths, 82 cases, 0 death. So the virus it can take 1 person to spread a virus if you are in a crowded area out and public health measure. If 1 person is infected, it can spread, and then it can spread in a wider area, and the outcome can be very, very negative. It can be something that it cannot be good. So this graph is just telling you how COVID can easily spread in the community if you're not careful. That's what this graph is just telling you. And you can see how from 30 wedding reception, for 30 cases, 100 miles, 200 miles, and then it spread all the way, and then how many people were infected. So that's a transmission pattern of COVID-19. And I still encourage people, I know we will get there, we will, eventually we'll get there. But as of now, have to be on our guard and make sure that we are okay. And I think, and I think I said, I'll say this again, I think the best bet, I understand that people are still having concern about the vaccine. I do understand that, but I do also think that this virus is real, and I would encourage people, if you really, really want to do things that you wanted to do before, because your best bet would be to try and see to get a vaccine. Now, it's safe. I trust CDC, and I trust the scientists that developed this vaccine, and I do think it is safe for the public. If it's not safe, I wouldn't market it to the public. It's a good ticket. It is a prevention method that would get us back on our feet, and I encourage the people to take it. And this will help us to get back on our feet. Bring this in on our
Question. When do you foresee the vaccine being given to 16 and under here in Stockton County?
When would you hit, when do you see the vaccine being approved for under 16?
Yeah, so the CDC, they are working on that, and I think they are going to be the Pfizer one is the one they are actually reviewing data on, so that should be up pretty soon. I get an alert on my phone today, but I haven't gotten a chance to review it yet. But I did receive an alert on my phone today, so that's going to be up pretty soon. But I think the advisory committee of vaccine practices, they are reviewing that data, and it should be up soon. And if that becomes available, I will send that information out.
Any other questions for Mr. Caldwell? Thank you for that overview and for reminding us that we're not past the pandemic by any stretch of the imagination. Next.
Okay, few things, good things. So quickly, this one is information that you've all received an email from the Association for a resolution for opioid litigation. This is something the county's been involved with for 3 years now. This has been somewhat, a little bit low, this lawsuit has been a little bit lower on our radar because this is not a class action lawsuit, but this is a multi-claimant lawsuit that is national in origin. And with this, of course, the association working with the state attorney general's office, they formed a committee that involved, it was a 15-member committee, elected officials, appointed officials from counties that were working with the state to come up with a memorandum of agreement that was also, that is in your packet or is attached. And basically it's talking about the allocation of funds that would come into North Carolina and what those funds would be used for. Of funds, of course, North Carolina is reasonably unique. It is among one of the few where basically most human service functions are performed by local government, by the county, versus by the state. Social services and the health department and most other places are state operations. So for that reason, North Carolina is looking to allocate 80% of their settlement to counties and local governments. In there, in the back of the memorandum, there is an allocation by county of those funds among all 100 counties. It was not essential that they had to be part of the lawsuit. And this was just part of the conversation. That way, a county later on that is not part of, that was not part of the lawsuit, does not turn right back around and try to sue them individually. What they were thinking of it is if all 100 counties, or all 100 counties, and I think these 17 municipalities that have populations of over 30,000 people all agree to this MOA by resolution, that would enhance the state of North Carolina's bargaining position in the settlement. So that's why they are requesting that all 100 counties approve this resolution. I know it's a 30-some-odd page memorandum of agreement. I did not know how you wanted to do, how you wanted to proceed, but with this, it's really not going to be effective to go back in and try to negotiate this because they've been working on this for 2 years, on this memorandum for 2 years. So,
And essentially what they're asking is for all 100 counties to sign on because it strengthens North Carolina's position in the amount of money that will come from the settlement.
yes.
A really great summary. You want action?
This was B1, the board, I recommend either the board go ahead, if you're comfortable approving the resolution. If not, we would, if you want, our attorney to spend more time looking over MOA, or take it to the 21st, or take it to the retreat.
I believe that there have been a number of representatives from the County Attorneys Association involved with this.
What county?
Yeah, specifically, especially living there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have any reluctance about moving forward. The board wants to do it tonight, if they let us see the.
Madam Chair, I would move that we approve the memorandum of agreement.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, like sign.
Just a follow-up, I believe it is, there's a conference call set up for this Thursday and next Thursday as well. With that, the settlement, we do think it will be heavily front-loaded, but it is we're thinking that they're looking to do an 18-year settlement with this. This is just from the conversation, that the conference calls that I was on. And so, and there are going to be restrictions on the purpose and use, but basically the funds would be available to the county as they come in. There would not be necessarily an oversight, but there would be the designated use for them. So, we would be working with other partners in determining the best use of those funds. ARP funds, just to let you know, and just because they put in a date last week, of course, the first tranche of money is scheduled to come down by May 11th. That's determined from the 60 days past the legislative or pass the legislation. So Treasury is trying to push the first guidance out by the 11th.
Well, they have the criteria, there, when they send the money, will that be a part of it?
That's what we're hoping to get, at least the first broad strokes in front of guidance, so we can figure out where to start planning. This will take some time to plan on what we do with that. Also, you did receive, I believe you all received a letter from the chair of the Board of Education. They are requesting in their, that the Board of Commissioners authorize them to increase their stipend, their monthly stipend. They currently receive $300 a month. And they would request that this be increased to make it equal to that of the county commission.
So they want to double,
Yes, sir.
almost.
Out of the, school floor, that's where that money will come from?
It would come out of their current expense budget, yes, sir.
But, you know. But I'm not gonna vote for it. No.
Do we have to approve that?
Apparently so.
I believe you have to authorize it.
It was a surprise to me.
But it wouldn't be any extra money, it will be included in whatever we give, correct?
Correct. It would be just an allocation of funds we would already allocate to it.
Already allocated out of,
The current expense funds that we're,
We haven't determined how much it's gonna be yet.
correct.
I mean,
But there is no, I mean, we are over the whole county. They are one segment of the county. Why should their funding be equal to ours? I can't understand that. You know, here they say we're on the same, you know, we got the school system, we got all these other agencies in all parts of the county. And they want exactly what we get.
I can't vote for it based on, they ask us what we get. They need to determine what they want.
Well, 100%.
Why they ask me to determine?
Yeah.
Try to explain that 100% increase. It'd be tough.
We haven't gotten, $300 a month. We want to increase.
So let's delay that until a later time.
They need to make, in my opinion, yeah, they need to make a specific request, not based on what we get. They need to ask for what they
So
want.
we are, you know, everything's equal now. I'm not saying that we are better or anything, but we got the whole county to deal with. They got the school system to deal with.
Absolutely.
And now we up to pay what, almost $1 million increase in their funding. Yeah, almost $2 million, which I'm gonna ask Kelvin to please explain this at our next meeting, because I don't understand how the formula could increase that much. I just don't understand.
I'm a little confused myself.
And I've asked for a copy of their calculation. and I'll go over that.
Yeah, not what they gave us tonight. That don't.
That don't make
That's
sense.
not what I'm asking.
They had a drop in the number, ABM, and they increased the amount.
There's only two factors, the AEM and the change in the low level funding. So one of them went down dramatically.
Something changed. I don't know.
Something's different. I don't, $11 million to 700 and what? It blew my mind. I can be right all night.
Okay, we have a request from Mr. Singletary from the Board of Education, and according to the general statute, it falls under the purview of the Board of Commissioners to approve an increase in their stipend. And I'm not hearing any action.
I don't want to do that, do not. You get it on the floor, I make a motion, we get what we want.
What?
I gotta make a motion, you ain't got to do what you gotta do.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to honor their request, is that correct, Clarence?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and we have a second, Mr. Gibson?
That's correct.
All right, any further discussion?
Just get.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gibson. Any further discussion or comments? I'll call for the vote then. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? Opposed.
No.
No.
How many noes do we have?
4.
Vote fails.
Madam Chair, I would move that we re-examine this request at whatever our next budget meeting is going to be.
All right, we'll put that on the agenda for our next retreat meeting, okay?
In the meantime, Mr. Gibson, could the liaison committee share the concern? Could we share the concern with their liaison committee?
I don't see why not.
That way they can revisit.
I think that'd be very appropriate.
Because I understand the concern.
I do too.
I totally understand that, but I think we need to, we want to keep a working relationship, is my concern.
We need communication.
Sure.
Well, the liaison, so far, it don't seem like we're getting very far with that working relationship, but we'll keep on trying.
Well, we did for a good while, then.
Well,
I said, nah.
I took that vote tonight as a no to that, but not a no.
That's what I think we want to make sure we're saying, we're not shutting, we're not taking it down.
If they don't deserve an increase, you just have to determine the amount.
I think Commissioner McFadden did was got us rolling.
I just, you know, instead of prolonging it and tabling it.
Keep it moving. Yeah. All right. Kevin, you have anything else?
Two last items. One is recommended, date for the budget retreat, because there was a conversation at the end of the workshop, I believe May 21st was best for a number of you. That's a Friday, but I think there was, somebody said it would be best if they could start at 10. You may have had something earlier that morning, but May 21st at 10 o'clock at Morgan's.
I'm getting eye surgery and they haven't scheduled me yet, so I haven't let you know.
That date's okay with me.
It's fine with me.
Me too. I can,
I can be there.
Yes. The last item, this was not in your agenda, and it's something I was not aware of until I got an email last night. But the FCC is opening up a grant cycle that would provide assistance to people who are for broadband, for high-speed broadband, basically for internet. There is a income guideline on there. And those applications start up May 21st. I think you can get up to, and I just read this very briefly, but I think you can get up to a $50 discount on service and possibly a $100 discount up to certain devices per household, assuming you meet with this. But with this one, FCC does have a website set up for getemergencybroadband.org.
Who's really doing this, Kevin?
The FCC.
Well, FCC, I see
Yes.
it, that was not, I didn't see it.
And it's just to help people pay for their service that they have.
I think it's wonderful, so they be able to get it through the, internet, so that's wonderful.
But it's financial assistance to pay for service. Is how I understood it when I read it. It was many pages.
Well, that was wonderful, okay.
That's just FYI.
So, and that is something basically, those applications open up May 12th. So if people are interested, they should probably go ahead and see if they can go online and start looking at it, researching, figuring out if they would qualify, because there's a number of ways to qualify for this. And the applications will open up, they will most likely be online applications that will open up next week.
Yeah.
Mr. Patterson, can we share this information on our website and Facebook page?
Yes.
I got the email yesterday too, and I'm trying to share it out just so people know.
Yes. We'll put the information on both of it so we can get it out.
And then if we get it, we can share it, they can share it, and they can share it.
Yes.
We still know.
Well, a meeting longer than normal, but we're still here. Commissioner News, Mr. Ivy, will you lead us off?
Well, just two quick things. The first one is about this new sound system. I hope we haven't paid for it because it's a lot worse than what it was before. Anyway, the second is a question that I brought up at our meeting last week. And I'm gonna ask the question again because I got a couple of phone calls last week and this weekend that told me I was told the wrong thing. And the question I asked was, is all the employees back to working in the office, 100% full-time? And with a few exceptions, I know DSS has some that do whatever, but I was told that they were. But now I've been told they weren't, but I don't know who these are, so, I hate anonymous things because you don't know how to go back. It's just like the old call you get, everybody's got. I'm gonna tell you this, but I don't want you to do anything about it. Well, they don't tell me.
No, and with that, there are departments, there are employees that are still work from home, and with that, they basically had to go off and submit back to me plans that they could continue, further work from home plan.
Is our department heads back? All the department heads? I mean, I don't know how you run a department out there in the office. That's something I think.
Well, what's their reason for staying, working at home now? What is it? You know, is there a reason for them to do it at home as opposed to come to work?
Some of them, it depends on the position. It doesn't matter as much where they are. Like our IT director, she can do it from most anywhere. And some of them, they just find some efficiencies from working from home to avoid some of the distractions of people coming into their office.
So all the directors back?
I know, I think Beth Hobbs does work from home 2 days a week. Yeah, Lori's not a director, but she has a split schedule.
I just feel like we need to have everybody back in the office now, unless they have a valid reason.
That's a big problem. It makes a difference.
Right. You ain't seen no decrease in their workforce. There's no problem to use.
No. Well, there was in our office that was 8 weeks late. And it was put off that it was COVID. And you can't do that kind of stuff from home. You gotta be in a work environment with it. I mean, I just think it's time we got to get people back in.
I agree wholeheartedly. Because you can't get telephone calls through or anything because oftentimes when they're working from home, it makes a difference.
Well, how can you come to work with COVID and you ask everybody, you sick, stay home? I mean, what do y'all think about?
What?
If a person got COVID.
We know they're not coming out there got COVID.
No, they're gonna prevent. Prevent.
Say what?
It's not affecting their workforce. I don't understand.
What I'm saying, that, for instance, working from home, I was trying to call, say, Section 8. Everybody's working from home, you can't get nobody on the phone. And that's a lot of the criticism of the staying at home is that you have more trouble getting in contact with people.
But I think what Mr. Crowder is saying is that Kevin is saying that is not an issue with those particular people. I do understand you're saying finance director, we got issues in her department and she's on. That is a concern. But what Mr. Patterson is saying, and I think Mr. Patterson is reiterating, is that has not been an issue of people reaching into that type of stuff because they're at home.
And that's only one department here, what Kim talked about. It's one.
Well, the only reason I asked the question, I asked it the other day and told everybody was back with a few exceptions. And so I just found that
The
out.
economy opening back up, school system opening back up, it's time to come back to work. I can understand it, partially, when kids were home, but now that everybody's back to work, it's open back up, partially. Let's open it up.
Kevin, can you come back on the 21st?
Well, they get COVID-19, actually not coming to work now.
I've asked Kevin that when we come back on the 21st, to bring us up-to-date data on who's working and who is not.
Your thing's going in and out. I hear half of what you're saying.
Yeah.
I have asked Kevin that when we come back together on the 21st, if he will bring us an up-to-date list of the staffing and what we have working from home, whether it's 1 day or 2 days a week, and that are full-time back in the office.
Thank you very much.
John, do you have any comments? No. Did.
10 o'clock.
I do, but I can save it and just talk. Have a follow meeting.
No.
Okay. Well, then, we are in recess until, I have a motion to recess until the 21st.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion is carried.
I'll let you know about my agenda as soon as I get my phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
No longer being recorded.